Real quick though, make mention here, in terms of international things. International wrestling historian Dave Cameron passed away as we are recording. So I just want to say something here to recognize that because, I just posted photos of him, and he wasn't a young man, at George Hackenschmidt's house in
Yes.
1962. He is someone who a lot of the stuff we know from Australia, New Zealand, and quite frankly around the world is because of the research he did in the live. I mean, not even just research, things he experienced live.
Yeah, and of course we had joked here on the program a while back that obviously Harley Cameron was the illegitimate daughter of Dave Cameron somehow, and possibly Harley Race. But no, you saw that name popping up everywhere on anything related to international bulletins from that part of the world in any of the wrestling magazines from the 60s on. And like you said, he's in a ton of the pictures in your files and actually visited George Hackenschmidt at his home. And how old was Dave Cameron? Do you have that information in
You
front of
know
you?
what? I could see what Steve Ogilvy posted, but I don't know off the
Well,
top
he
of my
had
head.
to be, as you said, he wasn't like a toddler in the early 60s. So, he had been doing this and studying the business and, involved in trying to report on the business for a long time in all of his adult life.
I'm not seeing an age anywhere.
Maybe they don't have numbers that high. Maybe it was. And Cowboy Bob Ellis, I heard, just turned like 96, right?
That's crazy. That's you never even
To
hear
from what
anything
he
about
looked
him.
like in the 70s also. And he hadn't been has anybody seen a picture of what he looks like in the last 40 years?
Not really.
Maybe there's a reason for that too.
Talking about big stars that lost their hair early. Cowboy Bob Ellis.
But and you know what? And also he was for years such a big drawing baby face, but he always got juice. He was always had the dead man walk he'd do through the crowd when he was bleeding, and then he'd make his comeback and they'd go crazy. But his head looked horrible by the mid 70s when he was working for Bruiser. And from what I was told, he had I don't know what they call it, the process where he had like his head sanded down with all the gig marks and the scars and everything, and had his forehead smoothed over, and then got booked in Puerto Rico. It was like the last full time run he had in his fucking career was in Puerto Rico after he got his gig marks fucking dermabrased or whatever. So that's funny for those of us who have followed the wrestling history. But anyway, and yes, we're sorry that Dave Cameron has passed away, but we're glad Bob Ellis is still around.
91 years old, Dave Cameron.
There you go. So Bob is still in the lead.
Mark Lewin, I guess, on his trail, right behind him, living a better life though. Mark Lewin, like, is married like a princess, isn't he? On some island?
What now?
Isn't Mark Lewin married to a princess? Like on some island that he
And
lives.
living on living on an island in the Pacific Rim. Now
You've
that
not
you
heard of
mention
this?
it, I haven't heard this, but now that you say it, it's not that preposterous considering who's involved. Is this the only kind of business in the world where you can say, "Well, I can believe that," when say, "Yeah, a guy's married a princess and living on a South Sea island or whatever."
I don't know where to Google this or look this up, but I swear to God I've heard it. And it wasn't just from
Look,
Kevin.
Mark Lewin, Island Princess.
Mark
Yeah,
Lewin,
okay. Kevin Sullivan
princess.
kept up with. Remember, we were talking about international tours on one of the recent programs, maybe the last one we did, and that when Nigeria had American tours that nobody ever knew about and things like that. Mark Lewin was on a lot of that stuff because Kevin Sullivan was, as I said, kept up with Steve Ricard, the promoter over in New Zealand. They found all kinds of those things. The Pacific Rim, brother.
Again, I'm trying to get more information, but apparently he's married to a woman named Princess Linda, who's a Singaporean princess.
Oh, wait a minute now. Do they have princesses eye? What is the princesses or princess eye? What's the plural?
I
Do they
don't
have
know.
those in Singapore?
I don't know. I don't know too much about the
Or
Singapore.
is she a self-proclaimed princess of Singapore? Because it is the wrestling business.
I don't think she was in the business, but I don't know. We'll see what we hear from The historians out there, unfortunately, Dave Cameron will be
Just where's Dave going to be when we need him on this breaking story?
from the Pacific Islands. That's right.
Yes. Goddamn, no wonder we can't find out. Without Dave, we're going to be in the dark about all this.
But there it is.
We loved you, Dave. There, yeah.
But like you said, a lot of this stuff that came out of that part of the world got out because of Dave Cameron. I have tons of his correspondence in the Wrestling News Files, and specifically the Flair Harley race stuff in '84, the title changes. I got the programs here because of him. He sent them out to people, the program, the poster, everything. So he was on that stuff and treated it very seriously.
Yeah, and nobody in this country may have known or might not have found out at least very as quickly, if not for Dave the Stooge Cameron.
No, you see, now you can't end like this is like one of our spots. You can't start going off the rails here. At the end. The guy just
He was a
away.
great guy. We loved him, but yeah, he stooged off Flair and race him. Harley never got a hold of him. No, he was a wonderful guy and upholding the honor of the industry.